Are you holding on to something so tightly that it's quietly draining your energy without you even realizing it? A job, a relationship, or maybe an old expectation you've outgrown but are too afraid to let go? I once woke up one morning with my heart racing and a heavy mind, not knowing why. On paper, everything seemed fine. I had a job, a partner, and a plan for the future. But inside, it felt like I was swimming upstream, trying to control everything, trying to please everyone, trying not to fall apart. Then one day, I was sitting alone in my favorite coffee shop watching the busy street outside, and I asked myself, what have I been running toward? And what have I dropped along the way? The answer didn't come with drama or noise. It was quiet, simple. I forgot how to let go. This video isn't about giving up on life. It's about learning how to let go of the right things at the right time, so you can live lighter, clearer, and more true to yourself. I'll be sharing with you 15 deep lessons on the art of letting go. Not just from Buddhist teachings, but from real lived experience. From how to face the fear of losing control, to how to release the thoughts that keep circling in your mind every night. No distant philosophies, no hollow theories, just things you can apply right now. So if you're tired of holding on to too much, pause, take a deep breath, and let's begin with the first lesson. Lesson 1. The greatest pain doesn't come from what happens. It comes from how tightly we hold on. A friend of mine, Anna, once went through a round of layoffs at the company where she had worked for nearly 10 years. Here's the thing, she wasn't even laid off, but for months afterward, she lived in constant anxiety. She stayed up until 2 or 3 a.m., rewriting her resume, scrolling endlessly on LinkedIn, checking her email every few minutes, as if a storm could hit at any second. She didn't lose her job, but she lost sleep, she lost focus, and she lost trust in herself. I asked her, "What are you so afraid of?" And she replied, "I'm just scared of losing everything." But when we dug deeper, we realized what caused her pain wasn't the real threat of losing her job. It was the imagined fear in her mind and the way she clung too tightly to a safe, predictable story. And that's the first truth I want to share with you. It's not what we're holding that hurts us. It's how tightly we're holding it. We often think our job, our partner, our identity, our plans are what keep us grounded. But sometimes, it's our demand for everything to stay grounded that cracks us open, like trying to squeeze sand in your hand. The tighter you grip it, the faster it slips away. If you're feeling exhausted, don't just look at what's happening. Ask yourself, am I holding on too tightly? Sometimes, just loosening your grip a little gives your mind the space to breathe. Because sometimes, you don't need to try harder. You just need to let go. And when you let go, you don't lose control. You reclaim peace. Lesson 2. Only what you cling to can truly leave you. I once knew a woman named Claire. She was 42 and had been divorced for 2 years. But mentally, she was still living inside that marriage. She kept everything the same. Her ex-husband's coffee mug still sat in the kitchen. His favorite seat on the couch stayed untouched. She even kept the morning routine he used to follow. I once asked her, "Why haven't you let go of these things?" She gave a tired smile and said, "I don't know. It's like, if I hold on to them, then I haven't completely lost him." But here's the sad truth. She had lost herself. She wasn't moving forward with her life. She couldn't love again. She couldn't trust again. Not because he left, but because she never let go. And here's a truth that might surprise you. We don't lose the things that leave us. We lose the things we hold on to, long after they're no longer ours. Clinging is natural. It comes from fear. Fear of loneliness, fear of emptiness, fear of not being able to start over. But the irony is, The more tightly you hold on to what's gone, the further you drift from what's coming. It's like standing in front of a door that's already closed and not noticing that another one has quietly opened behind you. So next time you feel like you're losing something, pause and ask yourself, am I really losing it? Or am I simply letting go of something I've held on to for too long? Sometimes, letting go isn't loss. It's the first step toward finding yourself again. So if you're holding on too tightly to something, maybe it's that very thing that's holding you back. And when you realize this, you begin to understand not everything needs to be controlled. Not every fear has to win. Lesson 3. Control is often just fear dressed in a fancy name. A few years ago, I worked with a client named Emily, a successful entrepreneur, independent, strong, always in command of everything. Her schedule was packed to the minute. Every email had to be answered within 10 minutes. If a client was 5 minutes late, she immediately called to check. She controlled everything: her work, her time, even the emotions of those around her. Everything had to be within reach. Always. One day I asked her, "Do you ever feel tired, having to control so much?" She paused, then said quietly, "If I don't control it all, I'll lose everything." And that's when it hit me. Behind every desire to control, there's always a fear that's trembling underneath. And this is the part we rarely want to face. Control sounds powerful, but it's often born from insecurity, from the fear of failure, the fear of getting hurt, the fear of not being good enough. When we try to control every outcome, every person, every possibility, we're not really living. We're just bracing ourselves for a storm that might never come. Like a stiff bamboo stick, it snaps in the wind. But the flexible one, it bends. So next time you feel the need to stay in control, ask yourself, do I really need to control this? Or am I just afraid of what will happen if I let go? When you can answer that honestly, you begin to step into freedom. Because the truth is, not everything needs to be managed in order to turn out well. Life often works just fine, even when your hands aren't gripping the wheel. And that brings us to one of the biggest misunderstandings many people have. Letting go doesn't mean not caring. In the next part, you'll discover non-attachment, not caring. Letting go doesn't mean you stop feeling. It simply means you stop trying to control the outcome. I once had a teacher, a Buddhist monk in his 70s, with the kindest eyes I've ever seen. One day, I told him that I felt guilty for ending a relationship. I said, I didn't want to hurt them, but I also didn't feel connected anymore. He smiled gently and asked, "Do you believe that loving someone means you have to stay?" I stayed silent. The monk continued, "True love is not about holding on. It's about knowing when to let go. Non-attachment doesn't mean you don't care. It means you stop trying to control the outcome." And that's something so many of us misunderstand. We think that letting go means we're being careless. But in reality, that's what unconditional love looks like. When you're not clinging to a relationship, a result, or a person. It doesn't mean you love less. It just means you love with more freedom, more health, without control, without ownership. A mother who truly loves her child doesn't control every choice they make. She allows them to fall, to learn, to grow. Someone who loves deeply doesn't force two people to reunite after they've taken different paths. They send love from a distance, if that's what brings peace to both. Lesson 4. Don't try to keep someone. Just keep them in your heart. The next time you feel like you have to do something to keep someone around, pause and ask, is this coming from love or from the fear of losing them? Real love doesn't demand that someone belongs to you. It simply asks that you show up, honestly and wholeheartedly. And when you love without clinging, when you care without trying to control, you begin to enter a powerful space where letting go is no longer weakness, but strength. I once worked with a woman named Sarah. She was a finance executive, the kind of person who never gave up, always the last to leave the office, always fighting her way through both work and personal battles. But one day, she sat across from me in a coffee shop. Her eyes were tired, and suddenly, her tears fell. Without warning, I gently asked, "Are you okay?" And what she said, I'll never forget. "You know, I think I just don't have the strength to keep fighting anymore, but I'm afraid that if I let go, I'll become a failure." That's the turning point for so many strong people. We get used to pushing through. So much so, we forget that sometimes real strength lies in the courage to soften. Letting go is not the same as giving up. Letting go is recognizing your limits. It's choosing to stop when continuing would only lead to more damage. Think of a boat struggling to paddle upstream against a flood. You can keep paddling for a while, but the harder you push, the more exhausted you become. Only when you stop fighting and let the current carry you do you finally realize the river was never trying to drown you. It was simply leading you to where you needed to go. That's what surrender is. It's not defeat. It's laying down the burdens you were never meant to carry forever. So the next time you feel too tired to keep going, ask yourself, is this the moment to push harder? Or the moment to be brave enough to stop? Letting go at the right time is not weakness. It's the wisdom of a heart that has lived enough to know better. And strangely enough, it's often when you stop resisting that life begins to flow in the way it was always meant to. Coming up in Lesson 6, why things begin to flow naturally when you stop forcing them. Have you ever noticed that the things you try the hardest to achieve are often the ones that feel furthest away? I once watched a friend, his name was Daniel, spend 2 full years trying to launch his own startup. He stayed up late. He quit a stable job. He poured every last bit of his savings into the project. He followed all the right steps, all the proven formulas, built a brand, ran ads, mapped out detailed plans, down to the day. But the more he did, the messier things got. The project didn't sell. The team fell into conflict. And Daniel, the founder himself, felt like the most disconnected person in the entire room. One day he said to me, "I don't get it. I did everything right. So why isn't it working?" I looked at him and asked, "What if you're forcing something to flow in a direction it was never meant to go?" And here's the truth we often forget. More effort doesn't always mean better results. Some things only begin to move when you loosen your grip. When you stop forcing life to unfold the way you think it should, you open the door for it to unfold the way it's truly meant to. Have you ever stopped trying to win someone over and the relationship naturally improved? Or maybe one day you stopped obsessing over job applications, took a break at a cafe, and out of nowhere, you got an unexpected interview invite? That's not just luck. That's life flowing again. Once you stop pushing and start trusting. So next time everything feels heavy, ask yourself, am I truly doing this? Or am I forcing it to happen the way I want it to? And if the answer is forcing, try letting go a little and see what happens when you stop controlling everything through tension. Because often, what blocks the flow isn't the world around us. It's our own mind trying to control everything. Let's go deeper into Lesson 7. You are not your thoughts. I once had a student named Mark. He was a brilliant engineer, hardworking, a loving husband, but he always felt like he wasn't good enough. Anytime something went slightly wrong, an email left unanswered, a cold look from a coworker, his mind would spiral into self-doubt. They don't respect me. I'm useless. I'm the problem. And just one thought like that could ruin his entire day. One day I asked him, "Mark, are you sure those things are true?" He paused, then admitted, "No, but they keep coming, and I believe them." And that's the issue. We can't stop thoughts from showing up. But the suffering begins when we believe they are who we are. Think of it this way. Your thoughts are like passing clouds. They come and go. But you are the sky. You are not the clouds drifting by. You are the vast, spacious sky that holds it all. You've probably had thoughts like, "I'm not good enough. I'm gonna fail. No one really loves me." But a few days later, those feelings pass, and you feel okay again, which shows you thoughts are not permanent. They come, they go, but you stay. So the next time you find yourself caught in a swirl of thoughts, try whispering to yourself, "This is just a thought. It's not the truth." Then return to your breath. Feel the soles of your feet on the ground. Hear the wind brushing past your ears. When you observe your thoughts instead of chasing them, healing begins. And strangely, it's when you quiet down and start observing that you begin to realize most of our thoughts are born from fear. Lesson 8. Overthinking doesn't solve your problems. It only traps you in them. I once worked with a student named Lily. She was bright, diligent, and always well prepared for every exam. But every time a test approached, she got caught in a spiral. What if I don't get an A? What if the teacher tests the one topic I skipped? If I fail, my parents will be disappointed. What will happen to my future? The more she thought, the more panicked she became. And instead of studying, Lily would spend hours staring at the wall, her mind spinning uncontrollably. Here's what I realized. Overthinking makes you feel like you're preparing. But in reality, you're paralyzed. Thinking in itself isn't bad. It helps us plan, analyze, choose. But when it goes too far, it's like stirring a glass of muddy water and expecting it to become clear. The more you stir, the cloudier it gets. Only when you stop does the water settle. Your mind works the same way. Have you ever lost sleep over something minor that happened during the day? One comment, one strange expression on someone's face, and your mind created 100 what-if scenarios that never even happened? That's the destructive power of overthinking. It doesn't solve anything. It just drains you. So next time your mind starts spinning, try this. 1. Close your eyes. 2. Take a deep inhale and a slow exhale. 3. Whisper to yourself, "I'm thinking, but not all thoughts are worth believing." Just 1 minute of awareness can bring you back to clarity. Because sometimes what you need isn't more thinking. It's less pressure to fix everything. Lesson 9. You don't need to fix everything to be worthy. I have a friend named Rachel. She's the kind of person everyone turns to when they need help. Heartbroken? Rachel listens. Colleague in trouble? Rachel steps in. Family drama? Rachel is the first to show up. At first glance, she's the embodiment of kindness and dedication. But after years of giving, Rachel became exhausted. She told me, "I feel like I always have to help everyone. Otherwise, I'm useless." And that's a trap so many kind people fall into. They believe their worth comes from fixing everything. But underneath that belief is a quiet lie. If I can't help, I don't deserve love. But the truth is, you weren't born to save the world. You don't have to heal everyone around you to be worthy of being loved. Some things aren't yours to carry. Some pain needs to be faced by the person living it. And sometimes, the most loving thing you can do is just sit beside them in silence and be fully present. Not fix. Think back to a relationship where you tried too hard. You did everything right, tried to make the other person happy, tried to solve every misunderstanding. But still, it didn't work out. Because sometimes, your urge to fix things doesn't come from love. It comes from the fear of losing them. And in the process, you lose yourself. Next time you feel like you have to do something to make things better, pause and ask, am I coming from love or from fear that I'm not enough? You don't need to save everyone. You don't need to be perfect. You are already enough. Even if all you're doing is breathing and being here. And the beautiful thing is, when you stop proving your worth through action, you begin to hear your true worth from within. It's coming up next in Lesson 10, the invisible addiction called needing to be valued. Love that's too tight, can't breathe. I once had an ex-boyfriend named Alex. He loved me deeply, and I knew that. He always wanted me to be safe. He cared about what I ate, who I saw, what time I got home. At first, I felt loved, but slowly, it began to suffocate me. I no longer had space to breathe. No time to just be with myself. If I took a few minutes to reply to a text, he panicked. If I didn't call back on time, he assumed something was wrong. I knew he meant well. But one day, I told him, and told myself, not all love needs to be held so tightly to survive. Because here's what we often don't realize. When you love someone so much that you try to adjust them, manage their every move, control their every emotion, that's no longer love. That's attachment. And love without room to breathe can't survive. We often confuse love with possession, care with control, caring with worrying on behalf of someone else. True love doesn't demand perfection. It doesn't require you to always be there fixing things for the other person. It simply asks that you are present, verbally and emotionally, not managing or micromanaging. Have you ever seen parents who worry so much they try to prevent every stumble? They make decisions for their children, wanting to spare every fall. But eventually, the child grows up lacking confidence, lacking courage, lacking space to become themselves. Love isn't a barrier. Love creates a safe space for the other person to be fully themselves. If you sense that your relationship is growing heavy, pause and ask, am I loving someone or trying to control them in the name of love? Loving well isn't doing everything. It's doing what's necessary at the right time, in the right measure, and giving enough space for both of you to breathe. Sometimes, the love we believe is intense is actually born from a fear we haven't yet named. Fear of being left behind. Fear of not being recognized. Fear of not being good enough to be loved. Lesson 11. The invisible addiction to being seen by others. I once knew a talented woman named Julia. She had a stable career, strong capabilities, and was well-liked by friends. But every time she posted something on social media, she checked her phone every 10 minutes. Has anyone liked it yet? Any comments? If it got a lot of engagement, she'd feel elated all day. But if there was no response, she'd start doubting herself. Maybe I'm not interesting. Maybe I'm not good enough. Julia had accomplishments, but she lacked something she believed she needed: external validation. And that's the sweetest trap of our time. We don't realize we're living for applause, living to please, living to get others to nod, to get the like, rather than to truly feel alive. Wanting recognition is natural. Everyone wants to be seen, praised, appreciated. But when we become dependent on it, we lose our own voice. We stop asking, "Is this real to me?" and start asking, "Will others like it?" We become performers in our own life. Right timing, right words, right emotions, but no longer real. Have you ever hesitated to say no to someone, even when you didn't want to? Ever changed how you dress, what you say, and how you live, just so someone else might like you more? That's not you changing. That's you living inside a cage called being accepted. Spend a few minutes every day asking yourself, if no one applauds, would I still want to do this? If no one knew, would I still feel enough? When you learn to validate your worth from within, you're no longer shaken by praise or by criticism. Because when you're no longer chasing the spotlight, you start turning back toward the light within you. That's the foundation of deep inner peace. Lesson 12. Whatever comes, I'll remain grounded. Not indifference, but wise resilience. Letting go isn't a one-time event. It's a daily practice. There was a time I believed letting go was a big dramatic moment. Like waking up one morning, feeling suddenly light. All burdens melting away. You smile and say, "I've made it through." Yet life taught me otherwise. Letting go isn't a miracle moment. It's a quiet habit, repeated every single day. I remember Sophie, a young woman working to let go of her first love. She had broken up, deleted photos, stopped contact, moved on socially. Yet every morning, the first thought was still him. Passing the old coffee shop, her heart would ache. She felt like a failure because she still couldn't let go. And I said to her, "You're not failing, you're practicing." Letting go isn't a one-time finish. It's choosing to loosen grip a little more each day. Letting go is a process, not an event. Like learning to breathe. No one breathes enough with one inhale. You have to return to your breath again and again to stay present. Letting go works the same way. Each day, you choose to forgive a little more, to stop searching for reasons, to breathe out and move forward. Try writing down one thing you're holding on to. An expectation, a relationship, an outdated self-image. Then write one sentence each day. Today, I choose to let go a little. No perfection needed, just honesty and patience. Because in that gradual process, you'll realize something profound. Life isn't certain. And that very uncertainty becomes the place where true growth begins. Lesson 13. The power of having no foundation. Where things dissolve so anew you can be born. There was a period in my life when I felt like I was free-falling. No clear plan, no sense of right or wrong. Everything I took for stability, career, relationships, personal beliefs, started to crumble. I called that phase drifting without anchor. And it was scary, because there was nothing to hold on to, no one to guide me, no solid answers. But the strange thing was, in that not knowing, I began to listen to my true self, no longer chasing expectations or playing the societal role. Just myself, naked, messy, yet honest. Then I realized we fear emptiness because we're used to having something to cling to. A job, a label, a plan. We can't stand not knowing. But it's within that uncertainty that something new can emerge. Buddhism calls this state groundlessness, a time of instability, ambiguity, no anchor, where the old self disintegrates and the new hasn't yet formed. It sounds unsettling, but it's the richest soil for transformation. Like a caterpillar dissolving in its cocoon to become a butterfly. No old form, no certainty about what will emerge, just darkness and waiting. Have you ever lost a job, ended a relationship, or moved to a strange city? The beginning is always disorienting, but later, you adapt. You grow stronger, softer, more real. Not because you know how things will turn out, but because you learn how to stand, even when there's no ground. Next time you feel entirely lost, don't rush to find answers. Pause, breathe, and say to yourself, I'm not lost. I'm being reshaped. Chaos doesn't always mean wrong direction. It can mean you're on the edge of something new. And once you stop being certain about what's right, you begin to rely on the simplest guidance of all. What is this moment teaching me? Lesson 14. Allow the present moment to be your teacher. One afternoon, after a long, tiring day, I walked along the riverbank. My mind buzzed with questions. What should I do next? Am I on the right path? Why is everything so confusing? I walked and tried to solve my entire life in my head. Until a gentle breeze brushed my face, and I stopped. Looked up at the sky, heard leaves rustling, saw sunlight flicker on the water. No answer appeared, but in that moment, something deeper spoke. This moment doesn't need you to figure it out. It just needs you to show up. That's what I want to share with you today. We don't always have to control or understand it all. Sometimes the present moment already has enough wisdom, if we choose to truly listen. Our minds love to schedule, analyze, prepare. But life doesn't follow the agenda. Some lessons don't come from books or guides. They come from the living moment unfolding right before us. Failure can teach humility. Waiting can teach patience. Not knowing what to do can teach us to trust silence. But to learn, we must be fully present, without running or judging. Next time you find yourself worrying about tomorrow or dwelling on yesterday, try pausing for 10 seconds. Take a breath, look around, and ask, what is this moment trying to teach me? Maybe it's teaching acceptance, or maybe it's just teaching you to breathe, to relax, to let go. And when you live fully in each moment, you don't chase peace. You become the path to peace. Final invitation. I'd like to invite you right now to pause and listen deeply to something simple yet profoundly powerful. Silence is the greatest strength you've been seeking. I once witnessed an elderly meditation master teaching outdoors. That day was stormy. Students were restless and noisy, sound bouncing off surfaces. Someone stood up and asked, "Should we move inside or turn off the speaker?" The teacher silently smiled and sat. And a few minutes later, the students calmed. Without being told, they sat, listened, and the noise faded away. Not because the sound improved, but because his stillness overpowered the chaos. In that moment, I realized, strength doesn't always come from doing. It comes from the ability to remain unmoved. When chaos erupts around you, the strongest person isn't always the quickest to react. It's the one who can sit still, breathe slowly, and retain clarity. We live in a world that glorifies busyness. The more tasks, the harder we act, the more we're deemed successful. But there is a strength that underlies everything. The power to stay anchored during the storm, without losing yourself. Next, try this. Spend 3 minutes each day doing nothing. Just sit. Close your eyes. Breathe. Don't try to meditate right. Just listen to the silence within. Because sometimes, in that silence, the answers you've been searching for finally begin to speak. Peace doesn't reside in how much you control. It comes from how much you're able to let go while staying grounded. And if you've come this far, know this. You don't need to do more to be enough. You simply need to come home. Home to yourself. Home to stillness. Home to the present. And step by step, everything will fall into place.